Ascendance of a Bookworm is back, but not how you remember it. Wit Studio just dropped the first trailer for the new season, and while excitement is high, fan reactions are also mixed. Today we're breaking down everything we know about the new season and how this Wit Studio takeover might be a game changer for this franchise. But first, for the uninitiated, welcome. My name is the Chattering Magpie and I make videos covering Ascendance of a Bookworm, and occasionally we'll talk about other series like books and anime that I enjoy. Now, if you are also new to Ascendance of a Bookworm, here's a quick TLDR just to get you up to speed. Ascendance of a Bookworm follows Urano, who was a modern-day librarian who dies and is reincarnated into the body of a sickly 5-year-old girl called Myne in a medieval-esque fantasy world. There's just one problem. She loves books and they're incredibly rare and expensive, available only to the wealthy nobility. Determined to surround herself with books again, Myne uses her modern knowledge to recreate everything from paper to printing, all while navigating a world of magic, social hierarchies, and her own mysterious health condition which threatens her life. It's part isekai, part slice of life, part fantasy epic, and it's absolutely loved by its dedicated fan base. Now, I am not going to lie, I wanted to kick myself for being unable to attend the Anime Expo in LA this past weekend, and so I missed out on the Ascendance of a Bookworm panel featuring Wit Studio CEO George Wade, Managing Director of Tio Books Jui Shibata, and YTB Animation anime producer Goshi Yoshida. Luckily, through social media, I was kept well informed about what was said and was left expecting a trailer release in a matter of days. And let me tell you, I was not disappointed. So anyway, let's talk about the new trailer, what's different in the visual style, what Wit Studio brings to the table, and what this could mean for the future of the series. Seasons 1, 2, 3 were created by Ajiado Animation Works. The first season of the anime aired in 2019 and covered the first 3 light novel volumes in the span of 14 episodes. This was quickly followed by a 12-episode season in 2020, which covered the next 2 volumes of the light novel, that is Part 2 Volume 1 and Part 2 Volume 2. And then finally, the third 10-episode season aired in 2022, which concluded the second half of Part 2 of the light novel series. Additionally, there were 2 OVAs that were released between seasons which acted as mini recaps of sorts. Now, according to a source which I still can't quite verify, but which has an abundance of information regarding the series and which I'll link below in the description, Tio Books had always intended for there to have been 3 seasons to cover the first 2 parts of the book, and they went with Ajiado under a bit of a tight budget and a tight schedule. I often heard complaints from anime fans. They would pass on Bookworm because of its art style. And, some of us might have critiqued especially Season 3 for its obvious budgetary constraints, its lackluster animation and art, plus, and this is my personal gripe, an underwhelming Damiel Expo presence. I was really looking forward to that. However, I do have to hand it to Ajiado Studio. Modest as this adaptation was, it did not fail to capture the hearts of so many of us, and I dare say it won a fiercely devoted cult following. Just how devoted is this following? Well, let me tell you. For me, specifically, I did what I never thought I would ever do. I started a YouTube channel because I needed to talk about this guy. And of course, the anime in general. And even though I found free online translations of the web novel, I still went on to purchase all of the official light novel digital copies, the manga volumes, the fan books, and short story collections as they came out. Plus, I did what I never did before in my life. I actually bought anime merch all the way from Japan. Yeah, I'm down pretty bad. So it only makes sense that they want to bring in more of these rabid anime fans and get them just as helplessly addicted to these series as the rest of us. God bless their souls, heaven help them. because once you go into this rabbit hole, there's no turning back. And so, enter Wit Studio. I'm not going to pretend that I am the biggest anime connoisseur, so I can't really go into depth about Wit Studio's track record, but I have really enjoyed some of their adaptations. Among others, Wit Studio's legacy consists of insanely popular Attack on Titan, Spy Family, and The Ancient Magus' Bride, among many others. Story-wise, it makes sense that they made the switch at this point. You see, the first couple of books in the series read almost like a slice of life. We get a lot of character development, we get exploring a commoner world, but it's a world where you see relatively little magic in use. But after the confrontation in the temple where things hit the fan and Myne is forced to leave her family behind, we enter the noble world and all of its magical, action-packed splendor. So yeah, it makes sense that they chose this point to switch to another studio that would emphasize all of the magic and all the action scenes. With a switch in studio, we get a production value that is significantly higher and more marketing and hype as the release date approaches. This means, of course, that more fans who will be attracted by action and magic scenes that isekais are already known and beloved for will be drawn to this series. And I, for one, really hope that our small but mighty Bookworm fan army will increase in size because we need more members in our cult. Now, let's talk about the trailer. This is what we're here for, right? So, the first big surprise is that we retain the same voice actors. I was actually worried that they might recast the characters, but those fears were immediately put to rest when I heard the familiar, beloved voices of Yuka Iguchi as Myne, or Rosamine, and Sho Hayami as Ferdinand. With Sho Hayami's narration and just hearing our familiar Book Gremlin's voice in the background, it's almost like Wit Studio is saying to us, yes, we know it's another studio that handled the first 3 seasons, and while we're going to do something vastly different visually, we're still gonna honor what came before. Or at least, that's how it felt to me. For the first 10 seconds, it really was just as if they had put an RTX filter on. There wasn't much of a difference except, in the lighting and the details. It felt familiar enough. The first shock was seeing Myne's family sitting around the table. Something just fell off. And then came the scene of her and Lutz making paper together. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I'll be honest, I kind of hated it at first. And okay, fine. Hate is such a strong word, but I was for sure taken aback. Especially when they showed the 2D daddies. I mean, the redesign of the male characters. Because, first of all, who is this Bishonen? Benno? No way. This is supposed to be our Benno? Dio Benno? Where did our cocky, smirking, 30-something-year-old merchant Ikemen go? Bring him back, please! And Ferdinand. Okay, don't get me wrong. I've gotten used to the redesign, but the moment it came out, there was just something off. I couldn't put my finger on it. It wasn't until I went on Reddit and somebody pointed out, it's the nose. They said his nose was out of control, while somebody else replied that he has 20% more bitch face. I can't unsee it. Of course, you guys, it's really all a matter of getting used to it. It's not bad. Objectively speaking, the artwork is really, really nice. It took me about 2 rewatches of the trailer to start adjusting, and once I did, I began to appreciate the new direction. The proportions are far more consistent to like a human person, a detail which in the older adaptation really threw me off sometimes. The color palette doesn't feel so much like a kid's show anymore, so it will be harder for people to dismiss it as, oh, it's just another kiddie show, which I admit I did the first time I watched A Sense of a Bookworm. Let's be real. We all loved Bookworm, but the old style was pretty flat. Now we're getting proper lighting, actual shadows, and anime hair shine that is actually drawn instead of just airbrushed. The line art is crisp and the facial expressions are noticeably more nuanced and detailed. And okay, so yes, a lot of my approval will hinge on how they drew Ferdinand. Sorry, not sorry, I am a Ferdinand simp. See here? His eyes? Gorgeous, golden, expressive. It's a serious makeover. But it's not just him. Here is where fans are a little bit divided, because if we put them side by side, a lot of them will prefer the old version to the new one. I've already mentioned that how Benno suffers by comparison. But others have also pointed out how both Gunther and Karstedt are far less brawny and maybe even attractive than in the previous seasons. We'll just have to get used to it. Even Ferdinand, our beloved high priest or head cleric, whatever you want to call it now, well, we are going to have to get used to those changes. For the most part, you guys, I think these reservations are born out of our attachment to the first 3 seasons. What else could you expect when we have, all of us, to some extent, been rewatching these 3 seasons over and over again? You know, we were bound to imprint on these designs. No matter how janky or low budget the adaptation was, it's still near and dear to our hearts. So when it comes to the visuals, the bottom line is, it's not at all bad news. A far worse crime would have been to change the voice actors, and ultimately, they returned for this next season. So if Wit Studio wants to rework the character designs a little, I'm all for it. Just as long as they don't start making Ferdinand smile in scenes where he absolutely shouldn't be smiling. Anyway, let's continue on. Next, it goes into how she's going from being a commoner girl to being adopted as a noble's daughter. We so appreciate details, and I for one am so pleased that they went so far as to write the entire contract with the proper Jürgen Schmidt alphabet. The blood-splattered contract, collapsing on the way to the bookroom, and then what I was waiting for the most. We got the briefest glimpse of Cornelius and my beloved queen, the saint of romance and lovers, Lady Elvira. It was a blink and you miss it moment, but it was enough. She is beautiful. I am so excited to see our favorite noble mama come to life on the screen, as well as her protective or overprotective older brother Cornelius. Now, from second 35 all the way to the very end, I was absolutely blown away by what I saw. By this time, I was already over the shock of the new visual style, but now here we see the flower pin ornament and Rosamine's crying expression, which are just marvelously done. It wasn't just simple tears rolling down her cheeks, but an expression of utter heartbreak that reminded me that yes, our little girl is going through it this season. My eyeballs were then blessed by seeing Ferdinand in all of his stoic, grim glory. Oh, and that little smirk, yes, that little smirk had me squealing so hard. I will not deny that I replayed second 41 over and over and over again. That was my favorite bit in all of the trailer. Yes, even trumping Lady Elvira, I'm sorry to say. We get more reanimations of content from previous seasons, and they're all massive upgrades, you guys. Multiple blessings and the fight scene at the temple. It was just really nicely done. And despite me not being entirely sold on the new designs, I can't deny that the quality is so much better. The visuals actually reminded me of the Ancient Magus' Bride. Wit Studio did a stunning job with that series, so overall, I think we can expect something visually impressive here as well. In fact, during Anime Expo 2025 here in LA, Wit Studio CEO promised that fans can expect Wit Studio's standard of quality. He said, "We love to live up to the Wit Studio quality and bring you lots of action and clean images." After watching this trailer, I have to say, I give them props for it. If it's anything to go by and they consistently offer the same quality throughout, then we're definitely gonna get something amazing. I know that we're all attached to the old look to some extent, but you have to appreciate the evident care that they're taking with this series. And to me, it seems that even though they're overhauling it in terms of visuals, they are keeping the core of what makes this show so special. Because ultimately, it's all about the heart. Just look at the cast. A major concern of mine was they were not going to keep the original VAs, and they did. The music is also being done by the same composer, Michiru, so we can still have the same musical motifs and the general vibe. They're changing the director, which is understandable since they are focusing now on the action side of things, but the person in charge of the series composition, that is the narrative overseer, responsible for establishing the overall story, the structure, the major plot points, and character arcs for the entire series, is actually going to remain the same. That gives me a little bit of hope that maybe, just maybe, they will retain the chibi scenes, please. I am maybe coping here, but I really want those chibi scenes to return. They were so delightful. I'm gonna go through some details that I only caught in my 10th, 11th, 20th rewatch of the trailer, so I don't know, maybe you guys will have noticed more, so here's what I noticed. First off, they fixed the color of Ferdinand's cape. In season 3, it showed an ochre color, but we know that Ferdinand doesn't even own an official Ehrenfest cape for reasons that we won't spoil. This time he's shown wearing his iconic blue cape, which fans of the light novels will recognize, and let's face it, blue is Ferdinand's color. It makes him look so great. We also get quick glimpses of Otto and Gil. Otto looks pretty much the same, which is fine. He already looked pretty solid in the previous adaptation. But Gil, I don't know, he just looks so sweet and adorable. I don't know, his redesign really suits him. And I'm liking Lutz a whole lot better in this still. In the old style, his head looked like a shiny cotton swab. Here he looks so much better. In Queen Elvira, they gave her the gold embroidery and lace details that befit her archnoble station and which match her light novel illustration. Her jewelry and hair accessories are elegant and she exudes her highborn status. Same with Cornelius, he also matches the light novel illustration. There's also a nice touch with the blue carpet rolled out for summer in the background. And did you notice the magic circles or magic glyphs on the doors? I didn't even consider that, but yeah, it makes sense that in canon, the doors will have all kinds of glyphs and magic circles on them for protection. I mean, Karsted's home definitely got a noticeable upgrade. It looks far more refined. Tuli looks older in this version, which might surprise some, but it actually lines up with the light novels. She was described as being bigger and tall for her age, so making her look more mature than her 9 years old fits her character better. Aoife, of course, is gorgeous no matter the adaptation, and Gunther, sure, he looks a little bit less brawny this time around. But when you think about it, it makes sense. Commoners wouldn't be overly muscular if food is scarce, so a leaner build will also work here. Another update I loved was the revised land regeneration blessing scene, which matches the light novel and the manga's description, because instead of it taking place in some random meadow in the middle of nowhere, the regenerated site was actually a crater in the earth in the middle of the forest. So here we have her performing the regeneration spell inside the crater. All in all, I have to hand it to Studio Wit. They could have tossed out everything and gone for a total overhaul. They could have changed things just, for the sake of being different and edgy. But they didn't. Instead, I feel like they made thoughtful corrections, and even when reanimating scenes, they stuck as closely as possible to the original storyboards. That level of respect to the source material, I truly do appreciate it. Despite a little bit of mixed reaction, on the whole, there seems to be a lot of enthusiasm for this new season. And while some of us are not quite 100% sold on the new look, true Bookworm fans will still watch and support any adaptation, no matter how drastically different it might be, provided that it remains as faithful as possible to the story. I, for one, are more than okay with the visual overhaul if it means that the new look and the fact that it's coming from a well-known studio will also attract new fans. And honestly, that's just how much we love Ascendance of a Bookworm. We just wanted to go on, because try as you might to search for something like it, and believe me, we have all looked for something to replace it, there really is no other series quite like it. There's nothing that matches it in terms of characterization, world building, and heart when it comes to light novels. I have to say though, I was really hoping to see more new content in the trailer. I agree with one of the commenters that said that most of it was just reanimating scenes from the previous 3 seasons. It felt more like a recap than a preview. They did tease Rosamine's baptism, which is exciting, but I was kind of disappointed that we didn't get a glimpse of Ferdinand's concert, close-up shots of Elvira, the Italian restaurant, or even Leslie's creation. Moments like these would have been greatly appreciated, but I'm hoping that when they release another trailer, we can see more of what's to come, including, let's hope, a look at our beloved airhead Angelica, our dashingly beautiful Brigitte, Riarda, and, well, okay, fine, maybe some Florencia, but I'll be fine if they don't include that. As to the light novel content itself, I was chatting with another Bookworm fan and we ended up speculating wildly about what we hope the first episode might include. Ideally, it would start with Sylvester's point of view from the end of Part 2, Volume 4, and then work in all of the side stories and character perspectives that were skipped in the original adaptation, or that were hinted at in the light novel but not shown. Things like, I don't know, maybe we can see Ferdinand sending Arno up to the towering staircase, the medical exam, or if not, then the exam results and what that means for Rosamine, since we already know that the collection of the Jarive ingredients is a major part of this series. I'm also hoping that they can include the short story when Ferdinand and Karsted inform Elvira that there will be an addition to the family and they basically have to beg for her cooperation. Whatever the case might be, I for one do know that Miya Kazuki, the author, has been much more involved in this adaptation, so even if there are changes or cuts or additions, I'm confident that they will stay true to the spirit of the original story because they will have basically gone through her first. Still, I do have a wish. Might be pretty far-fetched, but there it is, okay? I think that they should do an extended premiere episode. I mean, these days it's not unheard of for series to launch their seasons with either multiple episode releases, like they did with Apothecary Diaries and Frieren, or with the extended 90-minute long openers like they did with Oshi no Ko. It's the perfect way to do a recap, fill in the narrative gaps, and then finish strong with Rosamine's awe-inspiring baptism and the huge reveal that she's going to be adopted by the Archduke. I mean, I don't think that's too much to ask, is it? Now, with Wit Studios' involvement, yes, I have established I'm excited to see what they're gonna do, but I'm also a little hesitant. You see, they do amazing work, and we know that it has a higher possibility that it'll attract a lot of new fans. But they have a track record of dropping series or handing them off to other studios. I mean, popularity is a good problem to have, and I'm sure established Bookworm fans would watch it regardless of who made it in case it gets taken up by another studio. But still, that would mean possible tonal shifts, possible staff changes, and in the worst case scenario, adaptation cuts. I don't want that. At this point, some of you might be saying, look, Magpie, we're here to talk about the trailer for one season. Why are you worried about what could happen in the future? You're just getting ahead of yourself. Yeah, probably. There is reason to expect that there will be much more than this one season. Going back to that T.O. Books Mail magazine article from earlier, it said that Wit Studios' upcoming project will see a substantial increase in production budget with plans for more. The number of episodes, it says, will increase compared to previous seasons. The committee is preparing at least 2 seasons by 2028 with more episodes per season than in prior works. To me, this translates into there will be multiple cours this season. If that is the case, then it will speedrun all of part 3, squeezing it into a 24 episode series, which would be pretty tight and it would be hard to pull off. Then that way they can quickly get to part 4, which is the Royal Academy arc. You know, everybody loves Royal Academy arcs. I want to see part 4 soon, but I also don't want it to be, I don't want it to come so soon that we compromise on the quality of part 3 storytelling. This could also mean that they will do maybe a 2-course season and a 1-course season. That's 36 episodes to cover all of the content for part 3, which would actually be more beneficial for the storytelling in general because there's so many details in these books that we cannot gloss over. In the case that they decide to adapt all of it into a 2-course series, that means that we will get part 4 sooner and maybe even beyond. You guys, can you imagine us getting a full adaptation? That would be a dream come true. So yes, I have reason to be a little anxious, but also hyped and hopeful. I sincerely hope the studio has enough bandwidth to take on as much help as possible so we don't get another studio change and we don't get overwhelmed animators, especially since Wit Studio is also behind the remake of One Piece, which is fantastically popular. So I'm just hoping that they allocate proper amount of staff for Bookworm so that they can also do a really good job with our little series. But for that to happen, we have to continue supporting the author and the creative team behind our beloved anime and light novel. So if you're able to, please continue to support by purchasing books, merch, and spread the word about this awesome anime. Hype it up at your local conventions and comment and support other content creators out there who happen to feature Bookworm. It truly does make a difference, you guys. And speaking of supporting content creators, you can also support this content creator. Leave a comment below and share with me what you're most looking forward to in the new season and what you thought of the trailer. Remember to subscribe to this channel for future Bookworm content and click join to monetarily support my channel and gain access to my Discord server. I'll be following production updates closely and doing more analysis once additional info drops. Plus, I plan to cover this series as it airs, so stay tuned. All in all, there are high hopes for this series. During Anime Expo's panel, YTV animation producer Goshi Yoshida expressed his belief in the series' continued success and actually said that he hopes to make Ascendance of a Bookworm into the next Harry Potter. Those are some mighty high hopes, and they're also putting their money where their mouth is. Bookworm's scheduled time slot in Japan will be 5 p.m. on Saturdays, which is apparently right before the Detective Conan slot. For context, Detective Conan isn't just popular, it's practically a cultural phenomenon in Japan. It's watched by a wide range of groups, so yeah, that's a pretty sweet primetime slot, you guys. With all of that said, our expectations are through the roof. We're all suitably hyped and thirsty for more Bookworm content. Here's hoping that the new season delivers as expected and that we can all somehow get to April 2026 quickly and safely. If you would like an entire recap of Season 1, you can click here. For Season 2, you can click here. For Season 3 episode-by-episode reviews, click here. And for a playlist of all of my light novel versus anime videos, check the description. Alright everybody, thanks for watching. Until the next time, take care.